You're looking for somewhere that you can hike, bike, fish, do all kinds of different things in one location? Maybe with a group or your family so everyone has something to do? Well, that's exactly what Keppoch Mountain aims to provide. And that's where I'm hitting the trails today. In terms of life as a recreation area, Keppoch actually started as a ski hill. It was very popular in the 1980s, but ultimately failed in 1997. Then in 2010, a group of Antigonish residents reimagined this space as an outdoor recreation area. And that's what it is today, full of trails like the Summit Loop that I'm headed on today. There are over 300 acres of woodland and 50 kilometers of trail that you can enjoy in all 4 seasons in all kinds of different ways. This is the Summit East Loop. It's going to take me 2.5 kilometers up, 180 meters in elevation to the summit of Keppoch Mountain. At the lower trails, the Ohio and Beaver Rivers wind their way to a popular spot for sport fishing. Those rivers go through a 28-hectare nature reserve, which provides habitat for many plant species, as well as the at-risk wood turtle. This area is also a popular deer wintering area. Long before Keppoch was a popular recreation area, this area was home to many different people. Of course, the Mi'kmaq were on this land for a long time. But in the 1820s, Scottish settlers started to move here after the nearby towns of Ohio and West River became overcrowded, and they established farms in this area. Farming this area certainly wasn't easy, but the settlers made it work. At its peak, there were about 64 families in this area, with a school, a church, 2 post offices. It expanded so big, they're even developed into an upper and lower Keppoch. Such a beautiful area at this time of year, with the leaves changing, all different animals and sounds. The true gem of Keppoch Mountain are its trails. They range from as short as 500 meters right up to 5 kilometers, with something for everyone and every ability. From spring to summer, there's even a shuttle service to the top of the mountain for cyclists. Many of the trails here make use of the original ski paths across the mountain. This is one they don't make use of. You can actually see where the original downhill run would have come through this area. Starting to get overgrown now, and one day it probably won't even be recognizable. The community really had a strong vision of what they could accomplish in creating an outdoor recreation area for 4 seasons here at Keppoch. And making it 4 seasons was really important, especially in Nova Scotia, where winters are hit and miss, so a ski hill can be hard to operate. This mountain is now actually home, since 2019, to the Nova Scotia Summer Festival, which is a celebration of arts and music and culture. This place has become really important to the Antigonish community, but also to Nova Scotia at large. As a community venture, work at Keppoch relies on donations from the public. The society that maintains the trails and the facilities here is called the Positive Action for Keppoch Society. Volunteers maintain and work on these trails and create new ones. And they've made it really accessible. A day pass to this facility is as low as $5, and you can buy season's passes to everything here. On top of the trail amenities, Keppoch Mountain has a dock at Cameron's Lake for swimming, access to great sport fishing along the Beaver and Ohio rivers, a boulder climbing park, a forest classroom, and even an 18-hole disc golf course. And I've made it to the summit of Keppoch. You know, this is such a beautiful place from up here, and it's a little bit foggy today, but you can still get a sense of the view and the different mountains in the area. Keppoch is really all about community, and after the break, I'm going to go down to another trail that's been set up temporarily to support another part of the community here in Antigonish. And that sense of community here goes back to the Scottish settlers and even further to the Mi'kmaq. You know, there's a monument up here to Alexander MacDonald, the Keppoch Bard. And part of his poem really ties into that sense of community. My poem will go into print so that the chorus of my renown will not be forgotten. They will hear throughout the country the extent of the fellowship and hospitality we had.
Oh, come on, won't you be mine? Feel the sunshine.
The reminders of Keppoch Mountain's days as a ski hill are found in the woods even, such as these old ski towers. You know, there are trails all over the place that you can hike, you can bike, you can even snowshoe and ski in the winter. And that's what makes this place so special. It really is part of the community. And there's one more thing. Every year, in October, the Warrior Walk. The Warrior Walk is done in support of the Jordan Miles Foundation, which helps to end the stigma around mental health. Jordan Miles was a talented local artist. Many of his works of art can be seen in the Antigonish Public Library, including one that he never finished. Unfortunately, in February 2016, Jordan took his own life, and his mother set up the foundation in his honor. This trail is called the Game Changer Trail. It's an accessible trail here at Keppoch. There are tributes along this route to over 24 people whose lives ended early. The Jordan Miles Foundation is, for a brief time, bringing these people back to life and reminding others how hard some have to fight each day. How they have to be warriors to get through the day. It's about removing stigma of mental health so fewer families have to grieve such losses. This is called the Warrior Walk, but warrior is spelled a bit different. It's spelled with a semicolon rather than an I. And in part, that's to suggest that the story for these people is not yet done. And there's such a wide range of ages here. This person, Melvie Trenholm, born in 1925 and died in 1971. While over here, David Trenholm, born in 1976 and died in 2009. Jordan struggled with mental health his entire life, and after he passed away, his mother set up the foundation to help others who might be in the situation that he had been. They provide gifts, comfort bags, if you will, to patients who are in St. Martha's Hospital here in Antigonish in the mental health unit. And those gifts are all signed with a letter that says, "From a fellow warrior." They also try and help people access resources and find funding for special treatment. It's all about giving back to the community, about supporting the community at a time that it needs it most. It's not only important to reflect on the immense beauty of this trail, and really many trails across the province, but also the other roles that trails can have in our lives. When the Keppoch Society envisioned a new use for this recreation area after the ski hill closed, it was all about supporting the community and being part of the community. And that's exactly what they've done here. And this Warrior Walk is an example of just how important community is here. In this case, supporting people with mental health challenges. This hike is just such a beautiful tribute to so many people who perhaps never realized how important they were in people's lives. There is so much to do here at Keppoch Mountain. You could spend all day hiking, biking, fishing, in the winter, snowshoeing, skiing, fat biking. It really is a four-season place for adventure. Now, there's one thing I've been told that I just have to try before I leave here and go on to my next stop, and that's getting my bike back out and heading to the top of the mountain for a rundown chicken cougar. Well, I'm back on the top of Keppoch Mountain, and I'm very close to Chicken Cougar, which is one of the original ski hills and is now a downhill mountain bike run. I'm feeling a bit young at heart, and everybody says I should try this. So let's go. I almost made it down with no scratches. At least I'm in one piece. I could spend the whole day here at Keppoch, probably multiple days exploring the different trails, biking and hiking and enjoying the so many different activities there are here. But there's one other trail that I really want to take in today, about an hour and a half from here in Canso, Nova Scotia. There's also a bakery that I've heard great things about on the way in Guysborough that I want to stop at. So after the break, I'm headed to the easternmost point of mainland North America. Ouch. After a great time at Keppoch, I'm in need of a bit of fuel before heading not far from here to Canso for my last hike of the day. Many people have recommended that I stop here in Guysborough at the Days Gone By Bakery. Lunch, sweets, baked goods. I even got some fresh baked bread to take home with me. Well, with my belly full, I'm now off to Canso, the easternmost point in mainland North America.
Feel the sunshine.
I've made it to Canso and the Chapel Gully Trail. One of the things I love about visiting trails across the province is guest books. I find it fascinating that these trails have these records of the people who have visited and where they've come from. It's sometimes fun to look through and see where people may have visited from. Shediac, of course Canso. This is just the past few days. Lunenburg and Chester. It's like the whole province has come to visit Chapel Gully. This trail is named for the Star of Sea Church, which I passed by on the way here. A name the trail shares with an inlet I'll see later on, and Gully Island, which I'll pass by. The first Star of the Sea Church was built in Canso in 1845, and the current church was built in 1885 after a fire destroyed the first building. While the outside of the church is quite plain, the inside is an intricately designed gem. One of the interesting ecological features in this area of Chapel Gully are the jack pines, which are in this area, obviously surrounded by other trees as well. Now, what's interesting about jack pines is they're one of 3 native pine trees in Nova Scotia, but they are the rarest. You see, their seeds will only germinate under extreme heat. And this area was subject to a forest fire about 35 years ago, and it's forest fires that allow them to germinate. This is the Chapel Gully Salt Marsh. It marks the end of the Chapel Gully, which will come into view later on in this hike, and the start of Winter Creek. Salt marshes are really important to ecosystems. They're essential habitats and provide breeding grounds for many species. And they also help filter runoff and neutralize excess nutrients. In this area, there was quite a large fire sometime around 1970. The soil here is very thin and poor, and it meant that there was very little growth. And you can still see it really hasn't grown up that much. It's mostly mosses, low brush, and those hardy jack pines I talked about before. You got the Canso Wind Farm in the background. Over that way you can see the church and the cemetery up on the hill and the town. And beyond the town, of course, would be Grassy Island. This is Sherwink Cove, and the island in the middle is Sherwink Island. There's one on the right, which is called Snow's Island, and then a little tiny one you can just see over in the distance is Charity Island. And that big landmass in the back, that's Andrew Island. This part of Nova Scotia off Canso is just littered with islands. And it was these islands that the French and the British maintained their fishing fleets. These forests were not always park and trails. At one time there were homesteads here, and especially during the construction of the Canso wind farm, archaeologists explored this area in quite some depth and found quite a few foundations. The back half of this trail winds right along the water, and it's absolutely beautiful, especially at dusk like this. And in the distance, it's Glasgow Harbour. This is French Cove. Its name actually originates with the original French fishermen in this area. It's a very popular place to take a dip when it's a bit warmer than it is now. Just on the other side of this point is the entrance to the gully. So this is Chapel Gully, and it runs all the way back up to that salt marsh that I saw at the beginning of my hike. Depressions like this are all that remain of the former homesteads in this area. This, believe it or not, was the home of the Uloth family, and this deep area here probably was the root cellar. And over here, this is so flat. That's because this was part of the hayfield, but the forest has reclaimed it. These foundations are just all over the place in these woods. And it's amazing to think of the people that would have once lived here. One of the most well-known historical features of Chapel Gully is the pest house, or pestilence house, quarantine house, if you will. It was built to quarantine immigrants in the early 1800s who would come here with diseases that nobody really knew how to cure. If they lived, they would go home, but more often than not, they would die. It was torn down, and then in the late 1800s, it was rebuilt, and it was rebuilt to quarantine people with smallpox. Trails mean different things to different people. You know, they can be all about the games of riding a mountain bike down an old ski hill, or it can be a moment of reflection to remember people who have long passed. Or it can be a place like this, where you explore the natural history and the history of the people that came before. Wherever your next walkabout takes you, be sure to enjoy the moment.
Hey, come on, feel the sunshine. Oh, come on, won't you be mine? Hey, come on, feel the sunshine. Oh, come on, won't you be mine? Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, feel the sunshine. Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, feel the sunshine.